Hello, hello. Welcome back to another Legacy CNC project video. Now we're going to be starting a new project today that is pretty amazing. It's going to be a high-end furniture piece that was showcased and voted #1 project at Vectric's 2-day training event held here in the United States. It was designed and programmed and built completely by our very own John Hennen. We are talking about the floating side table. And it's going to require using every single workstation on Legacy CNC in order to build this project. Today, we're going to be starting off by producing the tabletop. So come follow me and let's jump on over to the wood shop and walk through how John built the tabletop. For those that have seen many of these project videos, we like to break down the choices that we made and why. That way you can learn from our failures and become better CNC woodworkers. If this is your first time seeing a Legacy video, welcome. Thanks for being here. Now this tabletop alone is a single-sided component. We just needed to add some details to the underside of the table surface. However, on the top face, we're going to be adding some custom inlay. So this is going to be a double-sided part. The first side, which is the tabletop surface, is where we're going to be adding the inlay. Now the blank is being held down onto a T-slot table with Legacy's low pro clamps. These press from the side, at the same time apply a downward pressure, helping prevent the part from lifting up during the machining process. If you're interested in getting some of these low pro clamps for your own CNC, you can contact Legacy Woodworking Machinery. One of the awesome things about Inlay is how easy it is to get designs that you want to apply to your projects. For example, we can easily use the Vectric software to take any clip art image and trace it to be used for the inlay design. Now, because we're going to be filling all of these V-carved details with epoxy, I want to explain why we did the Toolpath this way. Here we're using 2 cutters to give us the inlay details, an 1/8" up spiral cutter and a 30-degree V cutter. Here are the cutting parameters I was using for both of those cutters. Normally you can do inlays with V carving with 1 cutter. You don't have to use 2. However, we can waste less epoxy if we make our pockets a little bit shallower. And so we decided to restrict our cut depth to 1/4 inch deep. And that's what the 1/8" spiral cutter is doing. It's clearing a majority of that flat surface for us, so we're not taking a long time doing that with the tip of a V cutter. The 1/8" spiral we got from Mahogany, but the 30-degree V cutter we got from precisebits.com. When it comes to small angled V bits that come down to a very fine point, there's not a better source than Precise Bits. For softer materials like this mahogany, the fuzz that was left over can be quickly cleaned up with a chisel. If you want to have less of this, just use harder material. The process of pouring the epoxy into the inlay could happen at any time before or after side number 2 is machined. Here we're going to take care of the epoxy before flipping it over to side number 2. Now, one of the best sources that we found for epoxy is the website Old Login Sawmill. These guys specialize in epoxy for all types of applications, and I recommend checking them out. The pigment that we mixed with the epoxy is black onyx mica. This epoxy is called Art Epoxy and it has a working time of 50 minutes and it fully cures after 24 hours. In order to give us a better finish, we needed to release the air bubbles with a heat gun or blowtorch. And here are the inlay results after sanding away the excess epoxy. Now on to side number 2. Now we're going to be using the same clamping fixture to hold this down. However, I want to point out one thing. The blank has already been cut to the exact size it needs to be for the project. We also need to add a custom profile to the edges that only leave a 1/2 inch of material on the bottom edge. So how do we hold this in the machine without accidentally running into our clamping fixtures with the cutters? A simple solution is shown here. Just simply use some spacers. These can be sacrificial boards, cut to any size that fit between the blank and the clamp, giving you enough clearance so that we don't accidentally run the cutters into our clamps. Now this custom profile we're going to be applying to the underside of the tabletop. It doesn't have any cutters that match the shape, so we'll need to 3D carve this. This is going to be done with 2 cutters as well. A 1/2 inch down spiral cutter, roughing out a majority of the material and making it so we put less load on our carving tool, which has less tool deflection, giving us better cutting results and better finish quality. The 3D finishing toolpath is using a 1/2 inch core box to carve the details. Both the roughing and finish cutters are from magnate.net. And here are the cutting parameters we used for both. When John programmed this 3D rastering toolpath, You can see that he programmed it to raster along the width of the material. The question is why? Because you can choose any raster direction or angle. And here, this is technically cutting across the grain of the material. John did this because if you raster up and down a slope like this, you're going to get less tool marks or raster lines in your finish. Whereas if you raster along the length of the slope, the steeper the slope, the more of that raster line is going to show up. The more extreme that raster line shows up, meaning you have to do more sanding to get rid of it. Here you can see what I'm talking about on the end of the table, because we're cutting along the length of that profile versus going up and down the profile. We're getting these raster lines that are showing up a lot more on the upper surface and less on the lower surface. And we don't see any raster lines on the profiles that run along the length of the table. To wrap up this part, the last cutter is a 1/4 inch down spiral, and this is going to be applying some joinery. 2 pockets that go across the width of the table. These pockets will join the tabletop to the rails with a mortise and tenon joint, and we applied a 10/1000 allowance to accommodate for glue. Now here's a sneak peek of the actual finished project. We'll get to the rest of the parts in future videos, but the mahogany you can see turned out beautiful with that black epoxy inlay. John also repeated these exact same steps for the smaller bottom shelf. That custom profile and inlay that was on the tabletop surface, man, that turned out sweet. Now, if you have any ideas of what you would add to this style of table as the inlay design, leave those thoughts and comments right down below. Now, this next part might not be for you, but we have now made project plans available on Legacy's website at legacywoodworking.com/projects. We'll leave the link in the video description below. There on the website, not only will you find project plans, but you'll also find a full calendar schedule of upcoming hands-on workshops where you can register and come here to our Legacy facility to build CNC projects with the Legacy team. In the next video, we are going to be producing all of the side rails that give the floating effect to the tabletop. So stay tuned for that video. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in that next video.